Okay, so let's unpack this whole idea of like community strategy.
Yeah.
You've probably seen companies like throwing around the word community,
Yeah, definitely.
but does it really like make a difference?
It's funny because I feel like a lot of companies, they kind of jump into this community building thing
Yeah.
without really thinking about it strategically first.
Yeah.
They just sort of put a forum up, they host some random events, and they just kind of hope for the best. But
Right.
that's like setting sail without a map or a compass. You
Yeah.
might end up somewhere, but it's probably not going to be where you wanted to go.
Exactly. It's like all about intentionality.
Yes.
But why is strategy so important for community building? Can't we just let the community like organically grow and evolve on its own?
So organic growth is great.
Yeah.
But without a strategy,
Yeah.
you often fall into these vanity metrics traps.
Right.
And, I see companies celebrating hitting a certain number of members or a certain number of forum posts, but those numbers alone don't actually equal business value.
Right.
It's like, counting likes without seeing any actual sale.
Right. So how do we like move beyond those vanity metrics
Okay.
and actually demonstrate like real business value?
Yeah.
How do we like prove to the
Right.
people holding the purse strings that
Exactly.
community is more than just this like
Yes.
feel-good initiative?
So we need to shift the conversation from engagement to outcomes.
Okay.
So think about it this way. Would you invest in a marketing campaign
Okay.
that only promised you a certain number of likes, or would you want to see how those likes
Right.
translate into leads and sales?
Yeah, of course. Like you want to see that ROI.
Exactly.
But how do we apply that same logic to community building?
One powerful approach is to frame community as a strategic lever
Okay.
for achieving specific business goals.
Right.
So instead of just aiming for engagement, you actually define how community can contribute to revenue growth, customer retention, or even product innovation.
So you're talking about tying community efforts to measurable outcomes.
Exactly.
Can you give me an example of what that might look like in practice?
Sure, let's say you're running a software company
Okay.
and your goal is to reduce customer support costs.
Okay.
You could create a community forum where your users can actually help each other troubleshoot problems,
Right.
answer questions, and share tips and tricks.
So it's like they almost become their own tech support heroes.
Exactly. And this not only reduces support costs for the company,
Right.
but it also creates this sense of shared knowledge and collaboration within the community.
It's a win-win. It
Exactly.
makes the customers feel empowered
Yeah.
and it saves the company money.
Yeah.
So instead of saying like, we want an engaged community,
All right.
you're saying we want a community that helps us reduce support cost by 20%.
Exactly. And by setting those concrete objectives from the outset,
Okay.
you can actually measure your progress and demonstrate the tangible value that community brings to the table.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So we've established that strategy is crucial.
Mm-hmm.
We need to tie our community efforts to measurable business outcomes.
Yeah.
But where do we even begin?
Okay.
Like, what are those like first steps in developing a solid community strategy?
So to effectively demonstrate that ROI and make sure that your community is actually set up for success,
Okay.
we need to take a more structured approach to community building, and that's where these 3 levels of community strategy come in.
Yeah.
And they're really like layers they build upon each other to kind of create a cohesive plan.
All right, let's unpack these levels.
Okay, so at the top, we have what we call the business level.
Okay.
This is where you define that big picture impact.
Okay.
How will this community drive revenue, reduce costs, or achieve a specific business goal?
Okay.
So this level is all about the strategic alignment between your community and your overall business objectives.
So it's kind of like the why behind the community.
Exactly.
It's connecting the dots between community building and like achieving those top level business goals.
Precisely. Then we move down to what we call the community level.
Okay.
This is where we get into the nitty-gritty of what makes a healthy community thrive.
Okay.
Are we seeing active members, lively discussions, a steady stream of new folks joining?
Yeah.
This level focuses on measuring the health and engagement of your community itself.
So if the business level is the why, the
Yeah.
community level is the what.
Exactly.
It's like we're defining what a successful community looks like
Yeah,
in terms of like those engagement metrics.
exactly. And then finally, we arrive at the tactical level.
Okay.
Think of this as your action plan. Absolutely. And to really solidify these concepts,
Right.
let's imagine we're building a community around nutrition.
Okay.
Something very relatable and practical for everybody.
Yeah, I like a good real-world example.
Yeah, and we'll use this example to kind of illustrate how the 3 levels of community strategy can come together.
Perfect.
Okay, so let's imagine you're creating a platform
Okay.
for nutrition enthusiasts with a specific focus on providing support.
Okay, so it's kind of like helping people make healthier choices.
Right.
Share recipes, stay motivated
Exactly.
on their wellness journeys.
Yeah. Now, at the business level, perhaps your goal is to increase signups for your premium meal planning service.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Because you've got this
Yeah.
thriving community of engaged nutrition enthusiasts.
Right.
So that would naturally lead them into a premium service.
Exactly. Now, let's move down to the community level.
All right.
What would success look like for this community in terms of engagement?
So we would want to see active participation in our online forum where people are swapping recipes.
Right.
And supporting each other through their
Yeah.
dietary journeys.
Yes.
And we might also track how many people are downloading
Okay.
our free resources like healthy eating guides.
Exactly.
So those metrics would give us a sense of
Yeah.
how engaged and active our community is.
Exactly. Now, let's bring it all the way down to that tactical level.
Okay.
What are some specific actions we could take to actually achieve those business and community level goals?
To drive signups for our meal planning service,
Right.
we could offer a free trial
Oh, okay.
or a discount exclusively for community members
Yes.
to boost engagement in the forum.
Yeah.
We could implement a buddy system
Okay.
so that connects new members with seasoned veterans
Yeah.
so they feel really welcomed and supported.
Yeah.
And to increase downloads of those free resources, we could promote them really heavily within the community and show how they've helped other members.
That's fantastic. So you see how each level feeds into the next,
Yeah.
creating this cohesive strategy.
Yeah, this is making a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We've gone from being lost at sea to actually having a clear map and compass.
More like that.
But there's still one piece of the puzzle that I'm curious about.
Okay.
How do we actually determine what type of community we're building?
Yeah.
We hear all this stuff about different models and frameworks.
Yes.
How do we choose the right one for our needs?
There are many models out there, but one that really stands out to me for its practicality is what we call the SPACES model.
Okay.
And it really helps you pinpoint the specific business outcomes that your community can drive.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Let's dive into the SPACES model.
Hold that thought. We'll explore the SPACES model in detail after a short break.
Okay. All right. So before the break, we were about to explore the SPACES model.
Yes.
I'm ready.
Okay, so SPACES is actually an acronym
Okay.
that represents 6 key business outcomes that communities can drive. And it stands for support, product acquisition, contribution, engagement, and success.
So I'm already seeing how this could be a really helpful framework,
Yeah.
but wouldn't it be kind of overwhelming
Yes.
to try to achieve all 6 of these outcomes at once,
Absolutely.
especially for a new community?
Trying to be everything to everyone right out of the gate
Yeah.
is definitely a recipe for burnout and diluted impact.
Right.
So the key here is to prioritize
Okay.
1 or 2 SPACES objectives
Oh.
that align most closely with your overall business goals.
So it's about choosing your battles wisely.
Exactly.
I like that. But how do we know which spaces to prioritize?
Okay.
Can you give me some examples
Sure.
of what each one looks like in action?
Absolutely. So let's start with support.
Okay.
Think of companies like Apple and Cisco.
Okay.
They leverage forums
Okay.
where customers can help each other troubleshoot problems, answer questions, share tips.
So they're kind of becoming their own tech support heroes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this not only reduces support costs for the company,
Right.
but it also creates the sense of collective knowledge and shared expertise within the community.
That's awesome. A win-win.
It is.
Makes the customers feel empowered, saves the company money.
Exactly.
What about product?
Okay.
I'm curious how community can drive product innovation.
So imagine having these dedicated spaces
Okay.
where your users can share feedback, brainstorm ideas, and essentially co-create your product roadmap.
Okay.
A great example of this is Lyft's Driver Advisory Council.
Okay.
They actually involve drivers in key decision-making processes,
That's smart.
making sure that the platform evolves based on the needs and insights of those who use it every day.
Right. Because who knows a product better than the people who are using it day in and day out?
Exactly.
So it's you're tapping into that collective intelligence.
Yes,
It just seems like a no-brainer.
for sure. What about acquisition?
Okay.
I imagine this is where community becomes kind of this
Yes.
powerful growth engine. Exactly. Think about brands like Lululemon.
Okay.
They essentially turned their fitness instructors into passionate brand ambassadors,
That's interesting.
spreading the word organically because these instructors are already so deeply connected to the brand and its values.
Yeah.
They become these trusted advocates, introducing Lululemon to this wider audience of fitness enthusiasts.
So it's not just about traditional marketing. It's about cultivating this community that naturally attracts new customers.
Exactly. Another great example is Culture Amp.
Okay.
They built a community called People Geeks
Okay.
to really attract this wider audience of HR professionals
Okay.
by providing valuable content, fostering discussion,
Yeah.
and positioning themselves as thought leaders.
Right.
They created this community that draws in potential customers organically.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we've got support product acquisition.
Yes.
What about contribution?
Okay.
I feel like we're starting to see a pattern here.
This one's all about harnessing the collective power of your community
Okay.
to create content products or services.
Okay.
Take Udemy, for example.
Okay.
Their platform wouldn't exist without the instructors who contribute their knowledge and expertise by creating courses.
So you're kind of building a platform where the users are the creators.
Exactly.
That's cool.
It's a powerful model for growth and sustainability.
Right.
Airbnb is another great example.
Go.
They rely on their community of hosts to actually list their properties,
I see.
essentially creating the platform's inventory and making it so valuable for travelers.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got those. What about engagement?
Okay.
I feel like this one's like at the heart
Yeah.
of any thriving community.
Engagement is all about fostering a sense of belonging,
Okay.
encouraging meaningful interactions, and boosting customer retention.
Okay.
Duolingo, the language learning app, does this really well.
Okay.
They empower their learners to host community-led events, creating this space for practice and connection that goes beyond the app itself.
So it's like creating those sticky experiences
Exactly.
that keep people coming back for more.
Exactly, whether it's online discussions, in-person events, or even collaborative projects.
Yeah.
The key is to provide opportunities for members to connect, share, and learn from each other.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, and finally we've got success.
Yes.
What does this look like in practice?
So this Spaces outcome is all about helping your customers achieve greater success
Okay.
with your product,
Good.
leading to increased satisfaction and potentially upselling opportunities.
Okay.
A prime example of this is Salesforce,
Okay.
the CRM giant.
Yeah.
They invest heavily in their Trailblazer community,
Okay.
providing training, mentorship, and resources that empower their users to essentially become Salesforce masters.
So you're kind of turning your customers into power users
Exactly.
who then become even more invested in the product.
Yes, and this can be applied internally as well. Google's G2G program, Googler to Googler, is a fantastic example.
Okay.
It's an internal community where Googlers actually teach each other valuable skills,
I see.
boosting professional development and creating a culture of continuous learning.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we've got these 6 spaces.
Yes.
Each one representing this powerful business outcome.
Right.
But as we discussed earlier,
Yes.
it's important to prioritize. We can't be everything to everyone.
Start by identifying 1 or 2
Okay.
Spaces outcomes that align most closely with your current business goals.
Right.
As your community evolves,
Yeah.
you can always expand into other areas.
So zoom out for a second. We've talked about levels of strategy.
Yes.
We've talked about the spaces model.
Mm-hmm.
But how does a community actually grow and evolve over time?
Okay.
What are the stages of that journey? Okay, so we've covered like a lot of ground
Yeah.
from defining our community's purpose to understanding the spaces model.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious about this whole idea of a community life cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Can you walk me through how a community grows and evolves over time?
Sure. So think of it like the life cycle of a plant.
Okay.
It starts as a tiny little seed
Okay.
that requires really careful nurturing and attention.
Yeah.
As it takes root, it begins to grow and flourish, eventually reaching maturity,
Okay.
and even producing new seeds that can sprout into new plants.
I love that analogy.
Yeah,
it
yeah,
feels
yeah.
very organic and natural.
Yeah.
So what is this first stage called?
Okay.
What are those key things to focus on
Right.
during those early days?
So we call this the seed stage.
Okay.
This is the very beginning,
Okay.
when the community is brand new and incredibly fragile.
Okay.
Just like a seed needs the right conditions to germinate,
Right.
A community in this stage requires a lot of attention
Okay.
and hands-on effort from the community builder.
So it's less about like measuring business value at this point and more about just like laying a strong foundation.
Exactly. You're essentially planting the seeds of your community's culture. Establishing that initial vibe and tone,
I see.
this involves showing up consistently fostering those early interactions
Yeah.
and making new members feel welcomed and valued.
It sounds like patience is key here.
It is.
It's about embracing those small wins
Yeah,
and just consistently tending to the community's needs.
absolutely. And one of the biggest mistakes that community builders make in this stage
Okay.
is trying to force rapid growth.
Right.
It's tempting to want to invite like thousands of people right away,
Yeah.
but that can actually backfire because
Right.
starting small
Yeah.
allows you to create a more intimate environment
Right.
where you can really get to know those early adopters and shape the culture more intentionally.
It's about quality over quantity in those early days.
Exactly.
You've got to find those passionate individuals
Right.
that will become like the heart and soul of the community.
Exactly. And then as those early connections begin to flourish, as the community starts to take root,
Yeah.
we enter what we call the growth stage.
Okay, so our little seed has sprouted.
Yes.
What does this growth look like in a community?
This is where things start to get exciting.
Okay.
You start to see more organic engagement.
Okay.
Conversations will flow more naturally. Members will begin inviting their friends.
Okay.
And you'll start to see more user-generated content
Okay.
without you constantly having to kind of nudge people along.
It's like watching your garden come to life after weeks of
Exactly.
careful tending.
It is. And as a community builder, your role starts to shift as well.
Okay.
You become less of a creator and more of a facilitator.
Oh.
You're guiding the community's evolution, establishing some light structures and processes,
Okay.
and just ensuring that things run smoothly.
So it's like striking a balance between letting the community like organically flourish,
Right.
but also providing some like guidance and direction.
Exactly.
What kind of structures or processes that you put in place during this stage?
You might start formalizing your community guidelines, establishing roles like moderators or ambassadors,
Okay.
implementing systems for welcoming new members and organizing events.
Okay.
You'll also want to start thinking more about how to measure your community's growth and engagement.
So things are getting a little more sophisticated.
Yeah.
What happens as the community continues to mature?
Okay.
When do we know that we've reached the next stage?
Eventually, we enter what we call the maturity stage.
Okay.
This is where the community really hits its stride.
Okay.
It's well established.
Okay.
It has this clear set of norms,
Okay.
a defined leadership structure, and a strong sense of shared identity.
Okay.
The majority of the content is now being created by the community itself.
Okay.
New members are being welcomed and integrated seamlessly.
So it's like a well-oiled machine at this point.
It is, but even mature communities need to evolve.
Right. Where do we go from here?
That brings us to this final stage,
Okay.
which we call community pollination.
Pollination. That's an interesting term. What does that actually mean in the context of like community building?
So as communities grow larger,
Okay.
subgroups with more specific interests will inevitably emerge.
Okay.
Think of it like a tree branching out or a bee pollinating flowers
Okay.
and spreading seeds to kind of create new growth.
So it's like a natural progression for thriving communities to spawn new communities.
Exactly.
But I imagine that could also present some challenges for
Yes.
community leaders.
Yeah.
Like, how do you manage that process effectively?
So the key is to embrace this evolution rather than trying to resist it.
Okay.
Trying to force everybody to stay under this one umbrella
Yeah.
can stifle growth and make people feel like their needs aren't being met.
Right.
So instead, we need to empower those sub-communities to flourish.
Okay. So what does that look like in practice?
Okay.
How do you empower those smaller groups?
Provide them with the resources they need.
Okay.
Encourage them to develop their own leadership structures.
Right.
Create a sense of interconnectedness between the main community. Right.
And these smaller offshoots
Okay.
celebrate the diversity of interests within your community.
Yeah.
And you'll create a more vibrant and engaging experience for everyone.
This has been an incredible exploration of
Yeah.
the community life cycle.
Yeah.
We've seen how communities evolve
Yeah.
from these fragile beginnings
Right.
to these thriving ecosystems capable of like spawning new growth.
Yeah.
It's like a powerful reminder that community building is this continuous journey
It is.
requiring adaptation, nurturing, and this deep understanding of human connection.
And just like a gardener tends to their plants with care and attention,
Yeah.
Community builders must approach their work with that same sense of purpose and dedication.
This has been like such an insightful deep dive.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I feel like I have this like whole new understanding of what it takes to build a thriving community.
Awesome.
What's like the most important piece of advice you would give to someone
Okay.
who's just starting out on their community building journey? Start with a clear purpose. Define those business outcomes that you want to achieve.
Okay.
And use frameworks like the Spaces model
Yeah.
to guide your strategy.
Right.
Remember, every successful community started small.
Yeah.
Embrace those early stages.
Yeah.
Nurture those initial connections, and don't be afraid to experiment and adapt as you grow.
That's fantastic advice. And to our listeners, think about your favorite brands.
Yeah.
Chances are they have a thriving community
Right.
that plays a key role in their success.
It does.
Now you have the tools to do the same.
Yes, you do.
So where will you begin?